Lihana sat in the dark control room, her fingers moving across the keyboard for what felt like the 1,000th time. The screens around her glowed with red warning lights. Each one told the same story. New Sol Station was dying. She pressed the button to send another message into space. Her voice was tired, but she kept talking into the microphone. "This is New Sol Station calling for help. We have 847 people trapped here. The aliens are attacking us. Our shields are almost gone. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help now." She waited. Static filled her headphones. No one answered. Hana looked at the clock on her desk. 3 days. For 3 whole days, she had been sending the same message. 3 days since the crystal ships appeared in the sky above their planet. 3 days since everything went wrong. The mining station had been a good place to live. People came here from Earth to dig for rare metals in the deep caves. They built homes, schools, and shops. Children played in the parks under the big dome that protected them from the cold air outside. Hana had been happy here, but now the children were hiding in the underground shelters with their parents. The shops were empty. The parks were covered in broken glass from the dome above. The aliens called themselves the Viltech. Their ships looked like giant crystals floating in space. They were beautiful, but deadly. When they fired their weapons, the beams cut through metal like it was paper. Hana had seen the reports from other human colonies. The Viltech attacked without warning. They took what they wanted and left nothing behind. World after world fell to their crystal ships. She tried calling the human fleet again. The nearest ships were weeks away. Even if they came as fast as they could, it would be too late. The Viltech mothership hung in space above the station like a dark cloud. Every few hours, it sent down smaller ships to attack their defenses. Each attack was worse than the last. The station's old weapons could barely scratch the alien ships. Their shields were failing. Soon, the aliens would break through and take whatever they wanted from the station. Hana heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see Park Minho, the chief engineer. His clothes were dirty and torn. He had been working for days to keep the power running. "How are the shields?" Hana asked. Minho shook his head. "Not good. Maybe 6 hours left." After that, he did not need to finish. They both knew what would happen. Any word from the fleet? Nothing. "The nearest ships are still 3 weeks away. We are on our own." Hana felt her heart sink. She had hoped, somehow, that help would come. But space was big, and humans were spread thin across many worlds. Most of their ships were busy fighting other battles. "What about the people in the shelters?" she asked. "Scared, but safe for now. The underground levels are strong. But if the main reactor fails..." Hana nodded. The reactor powered everything: lights, air, water, heat. Without it, everyone would die slowly in the cold and dark. She turned back to her radio and tried a different frequency. Maybe someone, somewhere, would hear her call. "This is Lihana at New Sol Station. We are under attack by Viltech forces. 847 people need help. Our defenses are failing. Please respond." Nothing but static. Minho put his hand on her shoulder. "You should rest. You have been here for 3 days. Someone has to keep trying. Maybe the next call will get through." "Hana, no one is listening. All the human ships are too far away or fighting their own battles." She knew he was right, but she could not stop. These people trusted her to call for help. The families hiding in the shelters, the workers who built this place, the children who had never seen Earth. They all counted on her. The station shook as another alien attack hit the shields. Red lights flashed on her control panel. The shields were down to 30% power. Hana tried calling on the emergency military channels. She tried the merchant ship frequencies. She even tried the old exploration band that was rarely used anymore. Each time, she got the same result: silence. She was about to give up when she remembered something her grandfather had told her. He had been a pilot during the first contact wars, when humans first met other alien races. Some of those early meetings had not gone well. Her grandfather had taught her about the old resistance frequencies. Back then, human ships would use secret channels to talk to each other when the main communications were jammed or destroyed. The frequencies were supposed to be forgotten now, lost to history. But maybe, just maybe, someone still listened to them. Hannah found the old frequency in the station's records. Her grandfather had made her memorize it when she was young. She had thought it was just a game then. Now it might be their only hope. She changed her radio to the old frequency and began to speak. This is New Sol Station on emergency frequency. 77 Alpha. We are under attack and need immediate help. 847 people are trapped here. If anyone can hear this, please respond. She waited, listening to the static. Outside, another explosion lit up the night sky as the Valtech ships attacked their outer defenses. The reactor warning alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed everywhere. Minho ran to check the power systems. Hannah, we have maybe 4 hours. Before total system failure, he called out. 4 hours. After that, the shields would fall, the lights would go out, and the air would stop flowing. The Valtech would come down to the station and take whatever they wanted. She looked at the radio. One more time. The old frequency was still open, still sending her message into the dark space around their world. Please, she whispered into the microphone. Someone help us. Far away, in the cold emptiness between the stars, her signal traveled through space. Most of the universe ignored it, as signals like this were ignored every day, but somewhere someone was listening. Captain Kim Do-hyun was floating in the dark space between 2 dead stars when he heard the signal. His ship, Ghost 7, was old and beaten up. The paint was worn off in places, showing the metal underneath. Strange weapons were attached to the hull, weapons that did not match any normal human design. The ship had no military markings, no registration numbers, nothing to say where it came from or who owned it. Do-hyun himself looked as worn as his ship. His face was pale and thin. Dark circles showed under his eyes. His hands shook slightly when he thought no one was looking. He had been living alone in space for 5 years, taking jobs that kept him far from human worlds. The signal came through on an old frequency he had not heard used in years. At first, he almost ignored it. His ship's computer was telling him about a merchant job 3 systems away. Easy money, no questions asked. But then he heard the voice clearly. This is New Sol Station on emergency frequency 77 Alpha. We are under attack and need immediate help. Do-hyun stopped moving. 77 Alpha was a resistance frequency from the old wars. His father had used it when humans first fought alien raiders. Very few people even knew it existed anymore. He listened to the full message. A mining station under attack. 800 people trapped. Valtech forces. Do-hyun knew about the Valtech. Crystal ships that cut through space like knives. They had been attacking human colonies for months, always choosing targets that were far from help. Smart, careful, and deadly, his ship's AI spoke, in a calm female voice. Captain, the New Sol system is 4 days away at maximum speed. Current intelligence shows a full Valtech fleet in that area. Survival probability for intervention is less than 2%. Show me the system map, Do-hyun said. The hologram appeared in front of him. New Sol Station orbited a cold planet rich in rare metals. Perfect for mining, terrible for defense, the nearest human fleet was weeks away. Captain, I must advise against this course of action. A single fighter cannot engage an entire alien fleet. Do-hyun stared at the map for a long time. He had been running from fights for 5 years, taking safe jobs, staying in the outer rim where no one asked questions about his past. He told himself he was done being a hero. But that signal, someone was using his father's old frequency. Someone who knew the old ways was calling for help. Set course for New Sol, he said. Captain, this is not logical. The odds. Set the course. The AI was quiet for a moment. Then the engines came to life, and Ghost 7 turned toward the new Sol system. As they traveled through hyperspace, Do-Yun went to check his weapons. Most of them were normal laser cannons and missile pods. But hidden in the cargo bay was something special, a quantum torpedo he had stolen from a secret government research base. The torpedo was experimental. No one was supposed to know it existed. It could punch through almost any shield and cause massive damage to enemy ships. He had been saving it for a special occasion. Maybe this was that occasion. Do-Hyun also checked his medical readings. The numbers were not good. The enhancement surgery that made him a better pilot was slowly killing him. Each time he used his improved reflexes and awareness, it burned out more of his nervous system. The doctors had given him maybe 6 months to live. That was 3 months ago. But for now, he was still the best pilot alive. The surgery had connected his brain directly to alien technology captured during the first contact wars. It let him think faster, react quicker, and see patterns that other humans missed. It also meant that every battle might be his last. 2 days into the journey, he received another signal from New Sol Station. The woman's voice sounded more desperate now. The station's shields were failing. The reactor was close to breakdown. "Hold on," Do-Yun whispered to the signal. "I'm coming." On the 3rd day, his ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Sol system. What he saw made him pause. The Valtech fleet was huge. The mothership looked like a floating crystal mountain, surrounded by dozens of smaller ships. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons firing down at the small mining station below. New Sol Station was barely fighting back. Its old defense systems were no match for the alien technology. Debris floated around the station where parts of it had been blown away. "Scan the enemy fleet," Do-Yun ordered. "1 mothership, 43 hunter-killers, and 12 support vessels. Total firepower equivalent to a human battle group. Captain, we should leave immediately." Do-Yun looked at his hands. They were shaking more than usual. His body was telling him to run, to find somewhere safe, and let someone else be the hero. But his mind kept hearing that signal. Someone down there was using his father's frequency. Someone who knew the old ways was calling for help, and Kim Do-Yun had never been good at walking away from a fight. "Charge weapons," he said. "All of them." "Captain, this is suicide." "Maybe. But they're going to remember why they should fear humans in small ships." Ghost 7 moved deeper into the system. The Valtech sensors picked up his approach. He could see some of their ships turning to face him. They probably thought he was just another refugee trying to escape. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Do-Yun felt the familiar sensation as his enhanced reflexes kicked in. Time seemed to slow down. He could see the patterns in the enemy formations, the weak spots in their defenses. His hands moved over the controls without conscious thought. The quantum torpedo was armed and ready, but he would save that for the mothership. First, he had to deal with the smaller ships. "This is Ghost 7 to New Sol Station," he transmitted. "I heard your call. Help is here." Down on the station, Lee Hana heard the transmission and could not believe it. 1 ship against an entire fleet? It was impossible. But as she watched through the station's sensors, the impossible began to happen. The lone human fighter dove into the Valtech formation like a hunting bird. His ship moved in ways that should have torn it apart, dodging enemy fire by margins so small they could not be measured. And wherever Ghost 7 went, alien ships began to explode. The Valtech fleet commander, Viridian Kithvar, watched the approaching human ship with amusement. His crystal form glowed softly in the light of his command chamber. Like all Valtech, he looked like living gemstone, beautiful and hard. "A single fighter?" he asked his officers. "The humans send 1 small ship against our entire fleet?" "Yes, Commander. It appears to be an older human design. No significant threat to our forces. Kithvar made a sound like wind chimes, laughing. Send a hunter squadron. Destroy this pest quickly, then return to breaking the station's defenses. 6 Valthek hunter ships peeled away from the main fleet. They were sleek and deadly, their crystal hulls reflecting starlight like mirrors. Each one was 3 times larger than the human fighter and armed with cutting beams that could slice through metal like soft clay. On New Sol Station, Lihana watched the battle through the sensor displays. The single human ship, Ghost 7, was moving toward the hunter squadron at full speed. It looked like suicide. "He's going to get himself killed," said Park Minho, who had come to watch. But as they watched, something impossible happened. The human fighter suddenly changed direction without slowing down. It should have been crushed by the force of such a sharp turn, but somehow it held together. The move put it behind the lead Valtech ship, where the alien pilot did not expect it. Ghost 7 fired its weapons. The energy beams hit the crystal ship's engines, and it exploded in a flash of light. "How did he do that?" Hana whispered. The other 5 hunter ships turned to attack, but the human pilot was already gone. He had vanished into the asteroid field that surrounded the mining station. The Veltec ships followed, their sensors trying to find him among the floating rocks. Kim Do-yun felt his enhanced reflexes working at full power. Time moved slowly around him. He could see every asteroid, every enemy ship, every beam of energy. That came his way. His brain processed information faster than any computer, finding paths through the chaos that should not exist. But he could also feel the enhancement burning him from the inside. Each impossible move, each perfect dodge, cost him part of his life. His nervous system was overloading, sending waves of pain through his body. He ignored the pain and focused on the hunt. The second Valtech ship came around a large asteroid, its weapons charging. Do-hyun was waiting. He fired a missile that hit the alien ship's weapon systems, then followed up with laser fire that cut through its hull. 2 down. The remaining 4 ships tried to surround him, but Do-hyun was already moving. He used the asteroids like stepping stones, jumping from one piece of cover to another. The Valtech beams cut through space where he had been moments before. He came up behind the 3rd ship and fired everything he had. The alien vessel tried to turn, but it was too slow. Ghost 7's weapons tore through its crystal armor, and the ship broke apart. 3 down. But now the other hunters knew where he was. They came at him from 3 directions, their cutting beams creating a web of deadly light. There was nowhere to run. Do-yun smiled grimly and did something that should have killed him. He jumped his ship through hyperspace for just a fraction of a second, a micro-jump that brought him out right behind the enemy formation. The move should have torn his ship apart. The hyperspace engines were not designed for such short jumps. But Ghost 7 held together, and now he was in the perfect position to attack. His weapons fired again and again. 2 more Valtech ships exploded before they could react. The last hunter tried to escape, but Do-hyun was faster. A final barrage of laser fire sent it spinning into an asteroid. 6 ships destroyed in less than 10 minutes. On the mothership, Commander Keithvar was no longer amused. His crystal form had turned a darker color, a sign of anger among his people. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "1 human ship against 6 of our hunters?" The pilot appears to be using enhanced reflexes. "Commander, our intelligence suggested that the human enhancement program was discontinued." Kithvar knew about the human enhancement experiments. During the first contact wars, some human pilots had undergone dangerous surgery to improve their abilities. Most had died. The few who survived became incredibly deadly, but the process slowly killed them. "So, we face a ghost from the old wars," Kithvar said. "Interesting. Target the station with our main weapons. If this enhanced human wants to play. Hero, he can watch his people die." The mothership's massive weapons began to turn toward New Sol Station. Each gun was larger than most human ships, capable of cracking a planet's crust. But Do-hyun was already moving. He burst out of the asteroid field at maximum speed, heading straight for the mothership. His ship was small and fast, but even with his enhanced abilities, taking on the massive alien vessel seemed impossible. On the station, Chief Engineer Park Min-ho and Security Director Choi Yuna worked frantically to coordinate defenses. The mysterious pilot had given them hope, but they knew he could not fight the entire fleet alone. "Can we help him somehow?" Yuna asked. Min-ho looked at his instruments. "Our main weapons are almost gone, but maybe... Hana, can you contact him?" "Lee." Hana opened a channel to Ghost 7. "Unknown pilot, this is New Seoul Station. We see what you're doing. How can we help?" Do-hyun's voice came back, strained but determined. "I need you to create a distraction." "Can your defense grid still fire?" "Yes, but not for long. The power is almost gone." "That's all I need. When I give the signal, fire everything you have at the mothership's middle section. Don't try to hurt it. Just get their attention." Hana looked at Min-ho, who nodded. It was crazy, but this pilot had already done 6 impossible things. Maybe he could do one more. Meanwhile, more Veilthek ships were moving to intercept Ghost 7. The mothership's point defense systems came online, filling space with deadly energy beams. Do-hyun flew through the storm of fire like he was dancing. His ship twisted and turned, somehow finding gaps in the enemy's attacks that were barely wide enough for a missile to pass through. But his body was failing. Blood ran from his nose and his hands were shaking badly. Each use of his enhanced abilities brought him closer to death. He reached into his ship's cargo bay and armed the quantum torpedo. This was his only shot at hurting the mothership. If he missed, everyone on New Seoul Station would die. "Now," he transmitted to the station. New Seoul Station's remaining weapons fired at the Veilthek mothership. The beams were weak and barely scratched the alien ship's hull, but they got the attention of every Veilthek gunner. As the mothership's weapons turned to face the station, Do-hyun saw his chance. A gap opened in their defenses, a window just large enough for one small ship to slip through. He pushed Ghost 7 toward the Moth ship's hull, the quantum torpedo ready to fire. This was it. One shot to save 800 people. He just had to survive long enough to take it. Lee Hana established a direct communication link with the mysterious pilot as his ship raced toward the Veilthek mothership. Through the static and interference, she could hear his labored breathing. "Ghost 7, who are you?" she asked. "Why are you helping us?" Kim Do-hyun's voice came back weak but steady. "Name's Kim Do-hyun. I used to be military. Long story." "Used to be? What happened?" There was a pause as Do-hyun's ship dodged another wave of enemy fire. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. 5 years ago, I was part of something called Project Prometheus. The military wanted to make better pilots to fight aliens like the Veilthek. They changed us, made us faster, smarter in combat. Hana watched as Ghost 7 performed another impossible maneuver, spinning through a gap between 2 energy beams that seemed too small for anything to pass through. "The enhancement works," Do-hyun continued, "but it comes with a price. Each time I use it, it burns out my nervous system a little more. The doctors said I had maybe 6 months left. That was 3 months ago." "You're dying?" "Yeah. But that's okay. I've been running from fights for too long. When I heard your signal on the old resistance frequency, I couldn't ignore it. My father used that frequency during the first contact wars." Hana felt her heart sink. This brave pilot was already dying, and now he was throwing his life away to save people he had never met. "There has to be another way," she said. "You don't have to do this alone. Actually, I do. I have a quantum torpedo, experimental weapon, I borrowed from a research facility. It can crack the mothership's core, but someone has to deliver it manually past their shields. That's suicide." "Maybe. But 800 people will live. That's good math." On the station, Chief Engineer Park Min-ho was listening to the conversation while trying to keep their failing systems running. He turned to Security Director Choi. "Yuna, we can't let him die for us," Min-ho said. "What choice do we have? Our weapons barely scratch their shields." Meanwhile, more Veltec ships were arriving in the system. Commander Kithvar had called for reinforcements when he realized he was facing an enhanced human pilot. The new ships took positions around the mothership, creating layers of defense. In the station's medical bay, Dr. Kang Sumin was treating wounded defenders when she heard the pilot's story over the comm system. As a doctor, she understood what the enhancement process must have done to his body. "Hana," she called over the radio. "If this pilot's nervous system is breaking down, he might not survive long enough to complete his attack. The stress of combat is probably accelerating the damage." Engineer Nam Jisoo, who was working to repair the defense grid, had an idea. "What if we help him? Our weapons are weak, but if we coordinate with his attack..." Hana looked around the control room. These people, her people, were not soldiers. They were miners, engineers, doctors, and teachers. But they were also human, and humans did not give up easily. "What do you need from us?" she asked Do-hyun. "I need a window. The moth ship's shields have a weak spot near the engine section, but it's only open for a few seconds when they rotate the shield frequency. Can your sensors track their shield rotation?" Minho quickly checked their systems. "Yes, but barely. Our sensors are damaged." "That's enough. When I give the signal, hit that weak spot with everything you have. Even if it doesn't hurt them, it might disrupt their shields long enough for me to get through." Hana felt a chill as she realized what he was asking. The weak spot was deep inside the enemy formation. Even if they could hit it, the motherships' return fire would destroy what was left of their station. She looked around at her crew. Minho nodded grimly. Yuna checked her security teams, making sure the evacuation routes to the deep shelters were clear. Nam Jisoo worked frantically to squeeze every bit of power from their failing weapons. "We'll do it," Hana said. As the plan took shape, botanist Han Yoonji and maintenance chief Oh Taiwan coordinated the civilian evacuation. Families hurried through the corridors toward the deepest shelters, carrying children and emergency supplies. Some of the older colonists, veterans of previous conflicts, volunteered to help with the defense. They knew they probably would not survive, but they wanted to give the mysterious pilot every chance to succeed. Do-hyun's ship was now deep in the enemy formation, dancing between the massive alien vessels. His enhanced reflexes were working at maximum capacity, but Hana could hear the strain in his voice. "Hana, I need to tell you something. When this is over, make sure people remember what happened here. Not just my part, but yours too. You answered when your people called for help. You stood and fought when anyone else would have run." "We're not done fighting yet," Hana replied, though she could see on her screens that their remaining weapons were almost out of power. "Tell them," Do-hyun continued. "Tell them that humans don't abandon their own. Even when it seems impossible, even when the odds are hopeless, we answer the call." His ship shuddered as enemy fire grazed its hull. Smoke was visible through his cockpit window, and his instruments showed critical damage to several systems. "I'm starting my final approach," he said. "Remember, when I call for the distraction, hit that weak spot with everything. Don't hold anything back." "Understood. Do-hyun, thank you. Thank me by surviving. All of you." Ghost 7 accelerated toward the mothership's massive hull. The quantum torpedo was armed and ready. Around him, dozens of Valtech ships converged, their weapons charging for a final devastating attack. On New Seoul Station, every person who could hold a weapon took positions at the windows and airlocks. They knew the station's shields would fail soon, and Valtech boarding parties would try to take the station. But they also knew that somewhere above them, a dying pilot was about to sacrifice everything to give them a chance to live. Hana's finger hovered over the firing control for their last weapons. One shot. They would get one shot to help this brave stranger, and then their defenses would be gone forever. "This is it." Do-hyun's voice crackled over the radio. "Whatever happens next, you all fought like heroes. Now, give me that window." The mothership's shields flickered as they rotated frequencies. For just a moment, a gap appeared in their defenses. "Now!" Do-hyun shouted. Hana pressed the firing button. Every remaining weapon on New Seoul Station fired at once. They're combined. Beams streaking toward the weak spot in the mothership's shields. The beams hit exactly where they needed to, causing the alien shields to flicker and weaken. It was not enough to hurt the massive ship, but it was enough to create a small gap in their defenses. A gap just large enough for one small, damaged fighter to slip through. Kim Do-hyun pushed Ghost 7 through the opening, the quantum torpedo ready to fire. His vision was blurring and his hands could barely hold the controls, but he was almost there. Just a few more seconds, and he could end this fight forever. Kim Do-hyun's ship broke through the gap in the mothership's shields, with seconds to spare. Alarms screamed in his cockpit as critical systems failed one by one. Blood ran from his nose and ears, and his enhanced nervous system was burning itself out with each passing moment. But he was inside their defenses now. The quantum torpedo was armed and ready. Ghost 7 raced along the massive hull of the Valthek mothership, dodging point defense weapons that tracked his movement. The ship was enormous, like flying through a crystal canyon filled with deadly light. "Hana," he transmitted back to the station, his voice barely a whisper now. "Tell them we were here. Tell them humans don't abandon their own." Before Lee Hana could reply, Do-hyun fired the quantum torpedo directly into the mothership's crystal core and pushed his dying ship away as fast as it could go. The explosion that followed was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The quantum torpedo did not just damage the moth ship's core, it tore through the fabric of space itself. The detonation sent ripples across multiple dimensions, creating a shock wave that could be detected from dozens of star systems away. The Valthek mothership, which had seemed indestructible moments before, simply came apart. The crystal hull cracked and shattered, sending pieces spinning away into space. Secondary explosions lit up the darkness as the ship's own weapons detonated. Commander Kithvar had just enough time to send a final message to his fleet before. The bridge was consumed by the expanding fireball. "Retreat! All ships retreat! The humans, they are more dangerous than we thought." The remaining Valthek ships, seeing their mighty mothership destroyed by a single human fighter, fled the system in panic. They had expected an easy victory against a defenseless mining station. Instead, they had witnessed something that would haunt their species for generations to come. On New Seoul Station, everyone watched in stunned silence as the alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace. After 3 days of terror, the attack was over. But their mysterious savior was gone too. Ghost 7 had been too close to the explosion. The quantum shock wave that destroyed the mothership had taken the brave pilot with it. Lee Hana sat in her chair, tears streaming down her face. They were alive. All 847 people on the station were alive because one man had heard their call and refused to let them die alone. "He did it," she whispered. "He actually did it." Chief Engineer Park Min-ho began the long work of repairing their damaged systems. Security Director Choi Yuna organized search and rescue teams to help anyone who had been hurt during the battle. Dr. Kang Soo-min treated the wounded, while Engineer Nam Ji-soo worked to restore full power to the station. But something strange was happening in space around them. The quantum explosion had done more than destroy the enemy fleet. The energy released by the experimental torpedo had created a subspace pulse that traveled faster than light itself. The pulse carried Lee Hana's original distress call along with it, amplifying the signal and sending it across the galaxy. 3 weeks later, the first human ships arrived at New Seoul Station, but it was not just a rescue fleet. It was the largest gathering of human vessels anyone had ever seen. Ships came from dozens of different worlds. Military vessels, merchant ships, exploration craft, even civilian transports that had been converted to carry weapons. The fleet was led by Admiral Song Kyung-soo aboard the battleship Incheon. When he contacted the station, his first words were simple. "We heard your call." Hana was confused. "But sir, that was 3 weeks ago. How did you get here so fast?" "Your signal reached every human outpost within 50 light years. When people heard that a mining station was under attack, they dropped everything and came. To help, we may be spread across the galaxy, but we take care of our own." As the massive fleet took positions around New Seoul Station, Hana began to understand what had really happened. Kim Do-hyun's sacrifice had done more than save her station. The quantum explosion had turned her desperate call for help into a rallying cry that united humans across dozens of star systems. Admiral Song came aboard the station to meet with the survivors. He was particularly interested in hearing about the mysterious pilot who had saved them. Enhanced reflexes, experimental weapons, no official registration, the Admiral mused. "Sounds like one of the Prometheus pilots. We thought they were all dead." "He said his name was Kim Do-hyun," Hana told him. Song's expression changed. "Do-hyun? I knew him. Good pilot, good man. Officially listed as killed in action 5 years ago during a classified mission. I guess he found his own way to serve." The Admiral looked out at the debris field where the Valthek mothership had been destroyed. One man in one ship against an entire enemy fleet. The stories are already spreading across human space. People are calling it the greatest individual act of heroism in our history. But the real impact of the battle was just beginning to be felt. The Valthek Empire, which had been steadily conquering human colonies, suddenly found themselves facing something they had not expected. Human fleets began appearing at every threatened world, responding to distress calls with overwhelming force. The aliens had counted on human disunity. They thought that if they attacked isolated colonies, no help would come in time. But Kim Do-hyun's sacrifice had shown them how wrong they were. When humans heard someone calling for help, they came. All of them. The war that followed was brief but decisive. The Valthek, facing the combined might of humanity united in common cause, sued for peace within 6 months. Back on New Seoul Station, now rebuilt and stronger than ever, Lee Hana established a memorial for Kim Do-hyun in the main plaza. But more importantly, she made sure that the old resistance frequencies remained active and monitored at all times. A network of listeners spread across human space, ready to answer when someone, somewhere, called for help. The frequencies that Do-hyun's father had used during the first contact wars became the backbone of a new human defense network. The memorial plaque in the plaza was simple. It read, "Kim Do-hyun. He heard our call when no one else would listen. His sacrifice reminded the galaxy that humans never abandon their own." Every year on the anniversary of the battle, Hana would stand by the memorial and remember the voice that had answered her desperate signal. She would think about how one person's courage had saved not just her station, but had united an entire species. And sometimes, late at night when she was monitoring the old frequencies, she thought she could still hear his ship out there in the darkness between the stars. A ghost pilot watching over them, making sure that no human distress call would ever go unanswered again. The galaxy had learned an important lesson that day. When humans said, "No one left behind," they meant it literally, even if it took a ghost to prove it. And in the years that followed, whenever alien raiders considered attacking an isolated human outpost, they would remember the story of New Seoul Station. They would remember that somewhere out there, humans were listening. And they would remember that humans always answered the call,